Many a times, people ask me, and yes, even sometimes I ask myself, supposing I would not have ended up as a special branch officer, that is, as a NIS officer. Suppose I would not have ended up as a NIS officer, what would I have been? Supposing I would not have ended up as a cop, what would I have been? I'm trying to answer that. Maybe by the end of this, I'll have answered myself, and you will be the witness. Uh, many a times we ask kids, many a times we ask kids, what would you want to be when you grow up? What profession do you want to be? And I like the adults of today. I like the adults of today because the adults of today look for a situation where the kid loves the profession, where the kid loves the profession. That is what the adults today do. But when we were growing up, there are some jobs which people looked down upon. So you say, I want this job or that job, people say, "Ah, I thought you'll study hard to look for a better job." And one of the jobs that I grew up people hating were the disciplined forces. People hated the disciplined forces, and they associated it with what do you call? They associated it with academic dwarfism. If I were to come into contact with the National Police Service Commission, I would change. I'd increase the qualification of joining the police. Right now, the police they say that you have to be a D plus and above. I'd even say C plane. But then the police themselves brought the problem on themselves. They brought the problems on themselves because you find that a police officer of, let us say, B, a police officer with a B would join the police as a recruit. When he or she joins the police as a recruit, then maneuvers himself or herself to be posted to a place where there is a university like Garissa University, where armed police officers are in the campus. So he or she goes to Garissa. Then at Garissa, he or she applies to join Garissa University. After applying that, the university, after joining the university, instead of taking what we call a study leave, he or she joins the university as security team for the university. And then, depending on how the security they are performing there, he or she gets time to study and then get a degree. Once he or she gets a degree, then he or she starts insisting on getting a salary equivalent to that one of an inspector of police. So that is why you'll find that you could be having your B plus, you line up, and that is one of the problems we have in Kenya. You line up with a D plus, these people silently takes the D plus and rejects you. And what happens? The D plus will go around telling people, you see, I got a D plus, and so got a B plus, and I was taken and he was not taken. But it is not that you were taken and I was dropped. No, it is just that to preempt future police problems where this man or this lady gets a degree and insist on a salary hike without a responsibility. That is what they do. But during our time, it was really hard to find somebody who does well in school thinking of even being a police officer. Recently, there was somebody an A, who got an A in Form 4, and he said that he wanted to join the traffic police, and everybody laughed. You know, me, I admire that boy because you people saw was that he was at the roadblock stopping vehicles. I remember after doing my Form 6, I told my stepmother that I would have wanted to join the traffic police, and she cursed me. We were not on good terms. I'll not go into that. But she told me to my face, may you be arrested while receiving a bribe. That was before I even joined the police. So uh, don't look at the traffic. If you look at the traffic police officer, apart from looking for the 50 shillings that he is given, look at it this way. This is somebody who stands on the road when there is sun, whether there is sun or rain or anything, and there's no place he or she goes to rest and whatever, such things. And apart from DCI, who investigate serious cases like murder and any criminal case, the people who investigate most and in a second after DCI is the traffic. Imagine the person who prepares a traffic file. So me, I would really encourage that boy to join the traffic police. That being that, I'll start with how I loved the police. I loved the police. First of all, I got motivation from my father. I got motivation from where I come from. If you look at my people who are of my age and above, whenever people used to talk about work, you can find over 80% were in disciplined forces. And in disciplined forces, I'm talking of the army and army 40%, Kenya Police Service 40%, and I can say 20% APs. Uh, okay, something like that. You'll find that you'd find one or two employed as Air Force here, whatever. But usually, we used to have that a lot of army, a lot of Kenya Police Service, which is called general duty, and the administration police. Uh, I can tell you that as I speak now, my heart is still in that profession. What do you call? If any magic can happen today, and I become young again, I'll line up to look for a job in the disciplined forces, police service, and so on, even the army. But you see, if wishes were horses, utajijazia hapo. I started loving the police work. Mostly, I used to like the police, then the army also a bit, and so on and so forth. But I liked the police so that when I was in standard one, I usually tell people that the day I loved the police was May Day, Labor Day, when I was in standard one. Now imagine somebody loving his or her profession in the second term of standard one. And here I am approaching my 70s, and yet I still love that job. Yeah, that is a really big wonder. Even I myself am shocked. Now, what happened? I think I started loving it around April, but I usually say officially it is first May in standard one. My father was the third highest police officer in Mombasa County. That rank they call it staffing officer administration. He was the staffing officer administration, Mombasa Urban, and there was the Labor Day. Uhuru and Ruto started this system of other public holidays being done in the other areas. Jomo Kenyatta had started that, but you see, age and health did not allow him. But on May 1st, 1968, Jomo Kenyatta had the Labor Day. Nowadays, presidents don't attend Labor Day. They only attend Labor Day on the election year. Of course, they want to get something from there. So it was on Labor Day that the police were conducting the Harambe, and the guest of honor in discipline forces, we don't call him the guest of honor. We say parade. Parade commander was my father, and the parade reviewing officer, guest of honor is called a parade reviewing officer, was Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. So when my father was doing that parade, for some reasons that we will never know, there's a lot of things my father used to do with me alone. And it is not that I was his favorite or anything, but for reasons that only God will tell, because my father died 3 years ago. There are some things he used to do with me alone, and he would leave other siblings. I've never known. And my father, this is a photographic mind I got from my mother. So my father, even before he died, he could not remember why he used to choose me over those things. Uh, I'll only give two examples. The second example is in Kajiado. Kajiado, there's a chief who died in 2016. He used to write a will about himself, and we used to meet in Kajiado, a place called KMQ, Mile 46. We used to go there, and when we are there, he would tell my father what to type, and my father would type. And then that was 1969, and the chief hid those documents. He used to tell people, once I die, once I die, you'll open that briefcase. He died around 2014, 2015. And that is when I visited them, I told them about what he was telling my father. And that is the first time they were knowing something that had happened in 1969. From 69 to 2016 or 2015, you can do that. So whenever he would go there, he would just carry me with that chief, and we go. I don't know why. And then also 1968, whenever he used to go for those parades, uh, for the parades I can explain a bit, because whenever he used to do practice in the evening, he used not to take alcohol in a bar during those practices. No, he used to carry beer to our home. Whenever he would carry beer to our home, uh, he would uh, he would give me a glass. The beer used to be called the City. I'll remember. There was a beer which was called the City something. A beer just like Tusker. Uh, City Lager. Yeah, it used to be called City Lager. Those older than me can remind me. So there was a beer which was called City Lager. My father would sit there, and then I would get two sticks and say, "Hey, and he would really laugh, and he would give me a glass of beer. I don't know whether the beer used to affect me, or whether it was because, if you're to take tea, if I were to enter your mind and tell you, if you take tea, you'll get drunk. If you take that tea, you get drunk. I hope you understand that. So that is what used to happen. And the following day, he would take me. I think that thing of doing the parade at night also may have motivated him, because when he's in the evening, uh, listening to the radio, those were the days when there was no TV. There were TVs, but anyway, let me not talk about that. But we didn't have a TV. So he would give me a glass of City Lager. I would taste it and say, "Hey, hey, hop, hop," and then and then kiss one of the sticks the way. So that way, It used to happen that way. I believe that is the time when I started liking the police work. I do remember 1969 when I was in standard 2. I used to go to I used to go to radio room. Yeah, I remember I used to go to radio room. There used to be called imagine I've just remembered his name. And when I started recording, I didn't even remember Copro Francis. Copro Francis. There was somebody who was called Copro Francis who was in the radio room. I would just sit there, just enjoy, and then go home. Later on, my father was transferred to Ajia. When he was transferred to Ajia, he came. We remained in Kajiado boarding school, and every Saturday when we were given time, I would even walk all the way. If you know where the police headquarters was, I think it is still there. And then you all the way from uh, PBS or Olkajuado High School, I'll just go there to see how radio room was being operated those days. So that is how it was. I was really interested. Remember when my father was in Wajia, that was 1971. I was 10 years old. I even knew the cosines of police. November 1, November 2, do you read over? I was already in 71. I was in standard 3. Standard 3 repeat, yeah. Only one of the two, either the first year or the second year, because I only repeated in standard 3. I used to know how to say November 1, November 2, do you receive me? Receiving you strength 1 and 2. I was already aware of that when I was in standard 3. Then from there, uh, we went to. I used to admire my father because from Northeastern he went to railways, and that is when I was transferred. I went to very many primary schools, around more than 5, even 7, because one time you go there, and all these schools you used to transfer because of my father's transfers, but only one boarding school in Kajiado that I got out because of my health condition. I had a health condition, so I could not study. But there are some places I used to. So when my father came back, he was in railway police, traffic police. I was so much following it up. And when I was in primary, my father used to give me the exams, which they call, those days they used to call it English literacy test. And he would give, of all of all our kids, it is only me whom he used to give. And he used to tell me to answer it in my own way. And I would answer. And then when I went to secondary, he started giving me exams, which those days used to be called inspectorate exam, but later it was changed to be called police law examination. And in both circumstances, primary and secondary, he would give me papers to answer, and he would go and read, and he would just laugh. He would just laugh at the things that I was writing. Uh, I'm supposed to talk about my interest in the police, but I remember my father used also to. I am the only person whom he used to check my books. Uh, we could sit down and say, "What did you study today?" And I would show whatever. But even today, I still believe that when my father used to check my school books, it was not the way today. Today, I've seen my kids going through 844. It is not the way parents check on what the kids are doing nowadays. No, it is quite different from my time. The only reason my father used to check my books was to confirm whether that day I went to school or not. Mm. Anyway, in standard 6, there's a time I completed a whole term without going to school. But anyway, that is a story of another day. And then from there, he started checking my books up to Form 4. And I can tell you authoritatively that the way he used to check, it was just he used to check on circumstances. He knew that um, when you go to school, there are 3 things you do. 1, the teacher marks your book. 2, you do some assignment at school. 3, you are given homework. So he used to check on those. I don't think it was anything he was counter checking. So when I remember when I was in primary, I don't know which class, there is a military man who was a major. You know, those days being a major. This man is Mzewe Mali. This fellow, I'm sure, is dancing with the angels. This fellow is the one who even tipped us. There was a time he tipped me over my impending sacking in the police force. So there's a time when he was taking alcohol in our bar, and then he asked my mother what class I was in. At that time, I was in class 6. She said he's in class 6. And he told my mother that let him get a division 2 and let him get a division 2 and bring him to me. I'll make him a commissioned officer. Hey, my mother was shocked. I think my mother has never commented on anybody's profession, any of her children's profession, especially me. But that day she showed, hey, na akiingia kwa jeshi si atauawa. Then he told her, na sisi kwani tumeuawa? So it ended that way. That was when I was in standard 6 there. Major Wemali is now deceased, is the one who encouraged me. And then I said when I was in primary, my father used to give me notes, no exams, primary, the exams of, what do you call, English literacy. And he used to take them. I don't know whether I used to get it or not, whatever. But he used to tell me to just use my IQ to answer those questions. Then in secondary, that is from 1 to form 4, he used to give me what used to be called police law exam, inspectorate exam. Nowadays, it's called police law exam. And in both these situations, he never told me when I'm getting wrong or right, whatever. But then when it came to inspectorate exam, when I joined the police, I passed them like nobody's game, because how 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 are you answering questions which you had answered 6 years ago, even without being taught? When I was being taught law and other subjects, I used to remember the exams that I used to be asked, so it was just kupita through. And then from 5, from 6, I was in a boarding school. Maybe that also contributed. But I remember my father never wanted me to be a police officer. He never wanted me to be a police officer. The main reason I believe is that he used to be very harsh to police officers, and police officers used to tell him, Mzee, your kids will join and will be their bosses. I said, no, watoto wangu watasoma sana. I started by saying that jobs in those days, there are some professions which were reserved for academic dwarfs. So he used to say, watoto wangu watasoma sana na wataandikwa kazi ya maana, sio ya bure kama police. And those people came and punished me and said, go and ask your father. He's the one who used to say, ukiona mtoto wangu. So that one happened that way. But I remember after doing my Form 4, I almost joined the NYS, National Youth Service. I almost joined the National Youth Service. I had applied to join Form 5 in various schools, including Upper Hill, where my stepbrother was. And imagine, a classmate of mine got the exact marks that I got, and he was called to the same, we used to call it combination, but nowadays it's called cluster. It was the same cluster with him. I didn't know that David Mashari had applied to the same school and got the same what I got. And then when I was disappointed that way, my father said, since I was good in maths, actually, I was very good in maths. Form 4, I did maths and I did additional maths. And A levels, I did maths. Camp. Used to be called Camp, Kenya Advanced Mathematics Project. So I was very good in maths. Then my father told me he tried to use that opportunity that I liked because, and then he told me, you'll go to NYS, because there's a time he was seconded there. You'd go to NYS and just persevere, because you'll start there with it used to be called ACNC. It used to be called ACNC, but nowadays it's called CATC. You'll go through all the CATC and you'll come back after 2 to 3 years. as a CPA finalist. I really agreed on that. I agreed on that, not because I wanted to be an accountant or anything. No, I agreed on that because I'll be taught how to match. So the day when I was to see my father's, when I was to visit my father at his office for the shopping to go to NYS, I got a message that I'd been admitted to Bungoma High School and I was late. My position would be given to somebody else. It is just that somebody my father had beaten in the year I was born had sworn that he would educate uh, somebody from the lineage of Lando. So when Form 5s were being taken at Kenya Science, he insisted. He told the headmaster of Upper Hill was called Igobwa, Herman Igobwa. He told Herman Igobwa that I'll take this person, and the headmaster was Honorable Nathan Sanya Anaswa. He's the one who insisted I go there. So after completing after joining Form 5, even before we did Form 6, there is an incident that happened. Somebody was discovered to have two brothers were using the same Form 4 certificate, and they wanted to arrest the person who was impersonating his brother. When they came, then the police came to our school. Wandiema had run away. He had been tipped and he ran away. And so the same day again, the following day, the CID people came to the office. They wanted me. So I knew them because my father was a provincial CID officer. So when I entered the vehicle, people thought maybe I had a false certificate and I was being arrested. That is when I talked to my father on phone and he said I should go to Kakamega and apply to be a primary school teacher after my Form 6. They were doing it around the exam November. So my father was really insisting on me being a teacher. After Form 6, there's a time when they were employing untrained teachers in Garissa. They were employing 15 untrained teachers. 12 were taken were Somalis. 3 were Merus and girls. These 3 were residing in Benson Kaharia's residence and they were related to him. They were Merus. My father was really disappointed that I was not taken there. And then it ended up that there was a selection. There was a cadet selection for inspectors. We really tried to convince my father that I'd be among them, but he refused. He refused. And it just ended that way. It's a long story because we tried all ways, overt and covert. We did. Then my father went to Kiganjo for a traffic course and he found that if he would have intervened, I would have been taken among the 25. But he asked the caller, the deputy commandant, if I could join the 25. He was told no. Recruits are taken by Kiganjo and traffic are taken by, no, not traffic, cadets are taken by the commissioner of police. So why can't he join as a recruit? That's when my father agreed that I joined. He sanctioned that I joined the police force. Then I joined. I had a sight problem and I didn't put on glasses, but I had sight problem. But there is a trick I used because the Form 6s had medical problem. So the one I was following, he was taking long in reading that, and I crammed. Yes, I crammed the letters. Ile ya kwanza hivi na hivi. So when they told me funga jicho moja, I talked out of my mind, and then I really got a pass in eyesight. And when it came to the exam, the people in Nairobi, I was number 1. Countrywide, I was number 11. That is how it is. Then I ended up in the police. When I was in Kiganjo, imagine of the 25 people who were cadets, 15 were of my level, academic level and above, but 10 were imagine a Form 6, you are a recruit. We were around 6 recruits who are Form 6. But then 10 cadets are Form 4, Division 2. Division 2 is a B. So there was okay, today we can say you are a diploma person. Diploma in diploma, yeah. and then you have a student who is a B. First of all, you had a B in Form 4, then okay, from I got a Division 3, strong Division 3, which is a C plus a diploma. So you are in today's language, you have a C plus and a diploma, and then you have a Form 4 with a plain B who is earning twice that. But you see, I was in the profession that I wanted. So from there, while we were about to complete the course, my father wrote me a letter. Yes, my father wrote me a letter. He wanted to know where I would want to be posted upon completion. I told him I want only two places. If I cannot end up in railway police, I want to go to Northeastern. I want to go to Northeastern. And those days, Northeastern were even 10 years after I had joined the police, going to Northeastern was on disciplinary matters, or somebody was going to be sacked. So I said, if I don't join the police, uh, if I don't join the police, no, if I don't join the railway police, then I'd rather go to Northeastern. That is what I wrote back. During the posting, during the posting, the only people who went to Northeastern were those people who go to greet the guest of honor, best all round, those number ones in the class. So since I was not one of them, I could not go to railways. Then I was taken to Rift Valley. I was taken to Rift Valley. Rift Valley, it was compulsory for people going to Rift Valley to attend GSU training school. Not even Rift Valley. Apart from people who are going to Nairobi area, and a few went to airport, a few who went to places they chose. Many people we were 272, and around 200 went to GSU training school. So those 70, the girls were how many? Around 60. And then around 10 boys are the ones who were taken, who did go to. So it's like all of us went to GSU. Upon completion of the GSU, which I enjoyed because I really liked that. If you can see the police uniform, even today, the uniform that AP use and the Kenya prison, those days used to be used by GSU alone. I used to like that. Then from there, we went to Rift Valley headquarters, where my father was the district CID boss in Nakuru. He was the district CID officer, Nakuru, or we can say CCO, county, whatever. Then it reached a time when my files got lost. My files got lost, and I went to see my father. I could not go home. I could not go home. I had to stay with other recruits at the provincial training center. We went there. We stayed at the provincial training center, and then before we could meet the bosses, I rushed and to see my father, and he told me that he wanted me to be in Nakuru. But a lot of NCOs told me, don't work where your father works. No, don't. So I told him I'm going. It is me who chose to go to West Pokot. But my father told me, go and work there for 3 months. If you are not happy, tell me. If you are happy, you continue. 3 months when I told him I'm happy, that is when my files were found. You can see that. So I went to West Pokot, worked there. Now in West Pokot, I went to a place called Nauyapong. Nauyapong is just not very far from Turkana. It's also not very far from Moroto in Uganda. When you are at Nauyapong before electricity, I don't know whether there is electricity there, but you can see, you see in the forest, and there is a town there you can see from far. That is Moroto. We were there, and I used to like to be in the radio room. And when I was in the radio room, and that is the essence of these recordings, I was in the radio room, and there are even times when it would be interpreted that I don't want to work at night, or I don't want to go to patrols. I would say no. Those days when I'm working at night, I would still work in radio room and still work at night. And then those days I used to read. I read a lot of the police law exams or the inspectorate exam. I remember people used to tell me that when I'm in the radio room, it was very clear because I really enjoyed it. And when I talk about radio room, I was motivated by three people. I talked of Corporal Francis of Kajiado 1969 when I was in standard 2. And I'm also talking about Corporal Isaiah Tunga. Corporal Isaiah Tunga later became, he retired, I think, as a warrant officer, but is now deceased. Corporal Isaiah Tunga, he was a signaller with the Maroon Commandos, 7K. I used to like the way he used to. And even there's a time when I was informed when I visited him, and somebody went to him and said, "Do you have something called?" Said no. I thought it was that machine which people press and whatever. But then that noise, it's an abbreviation. And so even before I joined the police, I already had crammed those, what do you call, alphabet, the way those people talk. The only thing is that up to now, I've never learned Morse code, but I can run a radio room complete. It is such a way that even my name, if I have to to spell my name in the Morse code, it says Kilo Hotel Whiskey Alpha Tango Echo November Golf Echo Group. Kilo Hotel Whiskey Alpha Tango Echo November Golf Echo Group. JI-TENGE. So I crammed that even before joining the police. So I used to work it so well. And then it reached a time after the operation. I was sick. I became sick. And the operation, Pokot Lottery, when your body is shocked when somebody surprises you with something or anything, that surprise treats you. But when the boss came and said, "We used to hear you are sick, have you?" And I said no. So I was taken to Kapenguri, and I was attached to the radio room. I was not attached to the radio room straight. No, no, no. I was taken to the roadblock. Roadblock used to be used by people who are awaiting to go back to their police posts. But then uh, I used to lay the red block and demand bribes openly. Even so, there's a time, I think I've talked that elsewhere, and even it is in my book. There's a time I was sleeping because the rules in the roadblock is simple. There is a place which is written, "Stop, police check." You are not supposed to cross there. You are supposed to stop there. The police is supposed to wave you on. But the people are so used that they just pass unless stopped by police, such and such a thing. So somebody came with milk and he stopped there, and it was early in the morning. He had milk from Eldoret, no, from Kitale. He had milk from Kitale. Now, when he had milk, he stopped at the stop and honked. When I woke up, I said, "When do you namusha afande?" I stole his crate of milk, took it to a shopkeeper before the daytime came. The team came. When I took there to sell it to them, the Maragoli trader did not have money in the morning. He said, "Can you come back later?" So this fellow went and reported me to the OCS that I've grabbed. And you see, people don't know. That is robbery with violence and hanging act. Taking a crate of milk with a gun, G3. So when I went there, the OCS, he told the OCS, "This is a fellow." When I had, they are very careful. They don't, nothing is talked to you when you still have a gun. No, they wait until the gun is taken to the armory, and then as you're leaving. But when I was going, I saw the pickup outside there, and I saw that fellow standing in the OCS office. I knew, but you see, if you react, people will know. So you act as if things are normal. So I could sense. I didn't have side mirror, but I could sense he had the OCS had pointed to me, and the fellow had acknowledged. So I was taken to radio room. There is a story about radio room. It's a long one. It's a long one. I don't want to go into it because of the length of the story. But what happened was that because of that incident, the OCS transferred me to the radio room. But in the radio room, there was Corporal Gaywa. No, not Gaywa, Darandiwa. Yeah, Corporal Darandiwa. Who was, actually, he was not Darandiwa. He had a nephew called Darandiwa. So I think he was called Diwa. Diwa, yeah. So the Corporal Diwa was a trained signaler, the only one in the whole of West Pokot. And he liked the way I arranged the radio room and the way I conducted things and whatever. So he insisted that I I don't go back to now Yapong the post. I work in the radio room, and I can tell you, it has taken me long to tell you this. If I would not have joined intelligence, if I would not have joined intelligence, I would have been a signaler. It was very good and everybody used to like it. But then one day I got Vincent Mahanu Chemiat, who was then an inspector and the deputy uh, county intelligence officer. When we met, I was in uniform, and of course he was in civilian. I saluted him, but instead of saluting him saying morning sir or anything like that, I greeted him in Kibukusu. Kama huafande, and I saluted him. Said, stopped and said, are you a Bukusu? He said, yes sir. Told me, and what is your name? I said, James Lando Huateng. He said, are you a brother to Japheth Lando Huateng? I said, no, that is my father. Said, and what education standard are you? I said, I'm a Form 6. Said, and what are you doing in uniform? We need Form 6s in the intelligence. Why don't you join us? I said, imagine at that time, I didn't know what intelligence was all about. My father worked for a long time in the railways. Over 90% of my father's service was in railway and CID. So I knew what CID meant and everything. We knew of all those crimes were being investigated by CID. But I had no idea about intelligence. I just knew that they put on uniform, they put on civilian, and even their vehicles resemble those one of the CID, but they don't work together. You will see from my recordings, a lot of my recordings, I usually try to tell the people out, the young people, what NIS is. Don't go there and find out what NIS is from there. It is good to know what it is so that when you apply, you go there. Over 90% of the people who joined intelligence during my time, over 90%, didn't know the scope of work. So here he is asking me, you are a Form 6 here, you're son of land of Ateng, yes. Why don't you join? I said, but sir, you are the ones who are supposed to do that for me. Then said, okay. He said, okay, we'll look into it. So there's a time I was joking around with the generators and okay, I don't want to leave you hanging. We used to have two generators. One used to work during daytime and another one used to work at night. So there's a way I used to joke with one so that only the daytime generator works. It is very, even from here I can remember it was really dangerous because if our askaris were to be attacked that time, they would be killed without us getting the information. So I used to joke with that. First of all, I let this one get spoiled. People, the mechanics come all the way from Eldoret. Next, I do that, and then there was a time they were complaining in my hearing that why are these generators always coming off and this way? I think we are going to talk to Nairobi. I think we are going to talk to Nairobi so that they even replace the two generators. And then after talking to Mahanu that way, he went and talked to the OCS. The OCS was called Samuel Wedime Sibweche. Samuel Wedime. So they were talking in Kibukusu, and the name was Huatenge, 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 Huatenge. The sergeant major who was going to, you pass the office as you go to the armory. The sergeant major would pass there and hear them saying, "Huatenge, Huatenge. No, 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 Huatenge. No, 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 Huatenge." And you see, those days, police, anybody, everybody, apart from provincial administration, used to fear. In fact, if you are working for special branch, to tell somebody, unajua mimi ni nani, unajua naweza kufanyia hivi na hivi. So when the sergeant heard that and he cleared with the armory, as he was leaving, the OCS told him, "Can you go and call Huateng?" And you see, the sergeant was Kalenjin, Kimaru, Kimaru. Although he used to calling himself Maru. I think he used to call himself Maru, but the name was Kimaru. So when he came to me, he was shaking. Said, "Hey, whatever you have done to the intelligence people, enda ufutwe kazi tu, enda ufutwe kazi." My mind sent me to what I was joking around with, the Lister engines. I said, maybe I've been discovered and I'm going to be sacked. I said, I'm going to be sacked. Hey, they must have discovered what I did and they're going to sack me. That was what was in my mind. So I went to the office, and then when I arrived there, the OCS asked me, "Do you want to join the special branch?" I said, "Yes." I started saluting like a cartoon. You salute here, whatever, whatever, and anything but so that I should not be sacked for what I've been doing. You see, you are being suspicious of something you did, thinking that they know, but they don't know. And then this was everybody wanted to own me. Eh? Those are the few occasions when I feel very important. The OCS wanted me to work under him. The intelligence fellow wanted me to work under him. So the OCS said, but the father would not agree. The father would not approve. Uh, then I said, why can't I ask my father? Because that day I was to report on duty at night. Said, okay. And it was around lunchtime, before lunch even. So they accept, and I went in uniform to Eldoret. Not Eldoret, to Kitale. There was a phone which was called radio telephone. It used to look like a landline, but it used to use areas like it used to use areas like just like a TV or a radio. So I rang my father and told him the special branch people want me to join special branch. He said, my father asked me a question, and do you want to join or you don't? I said, I want to join. He said, try your luck. Then I came back. My luck. Uh, that is when I rushed and told the OCS my father has approved. Actually, the only reason I went to contact my father was to prevent the OCS from talking to him, because he would convince my father and my father would have just told me, don't do it. Those days when your father said, don't do it, you don't do it. In the special branch, I've ended up, people were fighting over me. You could find, oh, come to this place, Mandera. I was at a place called Ram. Why can't you come to the office and act? I was very good in report writing. No, there's two aspects in intelligence. Let me be very sincere. There is two aspects. There is one aspect of gathering intelligence, which I was very poor. I was very poor in gathering intelligence. But I was very good in, you get so many intelligences, so you are supposed to amalgamate. You are supposed to write the brief. You are supposed to, you look at a report and say, there is something lacking here. You conduct the person and say, you see, here is what. But if you had to tell me, yes, of course I was above average. But if you had to tell me, go and find out what are people saying, I was weak there. But compiling the filings, and then even telling the intelligence officer that your report is lacking important things here and there. But then handling the people, they handling the politician, inquiring intelligence, I was very, very poor. Let me be very frank. And I want to pay tribute to a lot of the intelligence officers. I am only different from them in one aspect. There are so many who are even better than me by far. But I don't think those who want to come out in the open can reach 5. That is how I am. But if you were to be together with all of them, mimi hata nitakuwa 35% when others are getting 75%. That is the sincerity. So I worked well. I can say that comparing the intelligence with the radio room, there is a lot of similarities there. There is a lot of similarities that the intelligence, you gather a lot of information and whatever. Uh, Signals, radio room also that way, but you see radio room is just summarized and whatever, and you have to, but you have to be, in both cases, you have to be up to top. So I would have still have been very good in radio room because of current affairs. Talking about current affairs, I would say that since I was in standard two, since I was in standard two, my father always bought a newspaper, a daily newspaper, sana sana Daily Nation. There's a few occasions when the government or civil strife caused a nation not to be there, and my father would buy standard, but he used to buy Nation. And even during his last days when he was sick and whatever, I remember there was a time when he could not read because of illness. He would tell me to read the newspaper for him, the way people read newspapers to illiterate people. And I remember even those, whenever we could meet, our age, your father reads a newspaper forever. You pretend as if nothing is happening, but he used to look at me and see whatever. And once he has completed reading the paper, it is me whom used to give. Wherever he is, he knows that he infected me with the liking of newspapers. You even today, you'll find that I buy newspapers daily, but then there's those stories that I find that I have to reread and redo again. That way, I leave them so many pages that I'll read slowly by slowly. Uh, that one is there up to today, and that is how I was influenced by my father on current affairs. I've always said that my mother is the one who infected me with the. Is it infected? Infected looks a bit rude word, but I inherited from my mother the photographic mind. Photographic mind I got from my mother. Uh, I do also recall that Nairobi Technical, I was a founding member. I was a founding member of Current Affairs Club. But then again, when I joined Bungoma High in Form 5, I was the founding chairman of the Current Affairs Club. And that, viewers, is when the long story ends, where I have to say that had I not joined, I don't know what I would have done if I would not have joined the police. I don't know. But my father kept on insisting that I become a teacher. And if I would not have joined the intelligence, definitely I would have become what do you call, a signaler.